So, Paramount recently hosted possibly the largest event for the premiere of a trailer, and as such, after
16
months, I am back with another trailer analysis. I have carefully analyzed this trailer frame by frame to find as many details as I possibly could. Anyway, let's roll that intro. Now before we begin, I just wanted to say that this is the first Transformers movie that actually has left me mouth agape with its visuals, because the animation done by ILM is so clean, clear and stunning. Not to mention, they absolutely nailed the design of the Cybertronians, unlike any prior Transformers movie. Now, I suggest you watch the event if you have not already, as it is a much richer experience to see that before you hear me spoil every detail. Now, let's begin. Now, during the live event, Hemsworth and Henry were introduced to the audience as Orion Pax and D16. These names were even used in the trailer. Now, this detail is essential because the use of the name D16 means that they are leaning into the IDW Comics origin for the War for Cybertron, where Megatron was originally a laborer gladiator who spent most of his time in the mines. Now, this trailer begins with Orion and D16 seated in what appears to be a med bay. I noticed that D16 already has his Decepticon insignia in this scene, which means that he is probably Megatron and not D16. It is also important to note that Orion and D16 have virtually zero car parts, which means that this story takes place prior to their acquisition of a T-Cog. For the uninitiated, I will let
RC and Starscream
explain what a T-Cog is.
Is that like a T-bone?
Not exactly. It's the organ that allows us to scan vehicles and transform.
Now, a T-Cog isn't technology, it is biology. Which means it will reject any power source other than Energon.
Now, in this trailer, it is confirmed that Orion, Megatron, and B-127, Badassatron, all work at Waste Management. Now, before we move on, this trailer reveals one major plot point in the story: manufacturing codes. For a little background, all Cybertronians were created by the Quintessons, because they are machines. When they were first created, they were not created as a race, rather as products and as machinery, and as such, each bot had a different designation. The trailer reveals that this system is followed even during the golden age of Cybertronian history. This is proven by the fact that Megatron and Bumblebee are instead called D16 and B127. Also, I have to mention that Keegan-Michael Key is absolutely killing it as Bumblebee. It's nice to finally hear Bumblebee in a Transformers movie after so long. In fact, Bumblebee has had a voice actor in every single animated Transformers film. In the next scene, Optimus lands in what appears to be an underground part of Cybertron. Now, it is important to note that this is most certainly Optimus Prime, as he has the Matrix of Leadership in his chest. We then follow Megatron, Orion, B, and Elita 1 through a forest. Now let's first talk about Elita 1. She was originally known as Ariel, but then Ariel and Orion were both killed by Megatron and then were rebuilt by Alpha Trion. There are no sources confirming whether this is Ariel or Elita 1, so for now, I will refer to her as Elita 1. Let's talk about this forest now. I had seen some theories floating around about what planet this could possibly be, and I might expand upon this in a separate video. For now, we can just call this place some random organic planet. Here it looks as though B is mining some rock. This is most probably Energon, and I am sure that it comes as no surprise to anybody. What is off-putting, however, is that it is purple rather than blue, and I am sure all my Transformers Prime fans know exactly what that means. We then see the main trio sneaking around the same waste management facility where Orion and Megatron were dropped off. Now, this podium is surrounded by a bunch of signs written in Cybertronian. This one says Halsbar or Halsbar, however you want to pronounce that. This sign says Mine, which is probably where we previously saw the funny looking Energon. Cybertronian was always supposed to be a scripted language, So I'm very interested to see if this movie rewrites that part of the Transformers mythos. What is even more interesting is that on the sign that Orion points to, the name Iacon 5000 is written in English. Now, the Iacon 5000 is essentially the F1 of Cybertron. The Iacon 5000 could indicate the introduction to jazz, blur, or even drag strip. Now, here is the bombshell. We see D16 with a head sculpt that much more closely matches the old Buckethead. This could be the first time he branded someone with the Decepticon insignia. We then see a Decepticon insignia that is covered in moss. This actually more closely resembles Tarn, a devout Decepticon who led the Decepticon Justice Division and was basically obsessed with Megatron on the same level that Soundwave was in RID 2015. We then see a massive purple ship, which is most definitely the Nemesis warship. In the next scene, we see Orion and Megatron using jetpacks to traverse what is most probably the Iacon 5000 track. There are multiple racers here who resemble older characters, like this plane which resembles Slipstream, or this red car in the background which kind of looks like Ironhide. Next, we see Orion and crew hanging onto the outside of a train that probably leads out of the same underground area where we originally saw Optimus land, although this is definitely not connected to that scene. Now, in this scene, where the train falls apart, we can see shards of metal sprouting from the ground. This could be a sort of terraformation that is happening to this planet, and this is possibly why the crew is at this specific location. Next, we see an absolutely stunning sunset with the song Start Me Up by the Rolling Stones, which is just such a perfect song to use for a Transformers movie, mainly because of the fact that it's an 80s song, which is era appropriate, and its use of guitar and drums bring me back to one very specific song. Now, it is important to note that the crew is on the same train that broke apart, and as they ride through the land, we can see that they are surrounded by a sea of Aurora Borealis, which once again looks absolutely stunning thanks to the work put in by ILM. The next scene is not really anything of note, as it is just a scene in which B flees something off screen. But what is of note, however, is the sound design, because the people behind this movie have absolutely nailed the sound of Cybertronian footsteps. And I am absolutely loving it. In the next scene, we see none other than Alpha Trion in the cave of an organic planet, who looks a lot like the Omega Sentinels from G1. This scene is crucial because while it is not named in this trailer, the artifacts that the crew get from Trion are most certainly T-Cogs, as they are able to transform after acquiring it. Another detail worth noting is that Optimus, Alita, and B power up with the glow of regular Energon, as it is blue. Meanwhile, when Megatron gets his fusion cannon and a much more accurate G1 torso, we can see that it glows purple, which is very indicative of what is to come. And then, for the first time in Transformers history, we hear Hemsworth say the iconic words.
It's time to show him we are more than meets the eye.
I must say that in this scene, where all four of them receive T-Cogs, D16 looks scarily similar to old Buckethead. The only one who looks slightly off is Orion Pax, but that is because he still has not completed his metamorphosis into Optimus Prime. Now in this scene where they all discover transformation, I love their reactions because this is actually the first time we have ever seen the origin of transformation in any meaningful way in Transformers history. I would also like to mention that these bots here very closely resemble the Vehicon Trooper Armada that Starscream led in Transformers Prime. We then see a bunch of warships preparing to land, and the one that hovers over Orion looks a lot like the Nemesis warship, especially because of the design of its undercarriage. It is revealed that these ships belong to the Quintessons, who, as I had mentioned earlier, are the original creators of the Cybertronian race. and this is actually their first ever appearance in a Transformers movie. I gotta say, I really dig their designs. I will however miss the rotating heads from G1. We then see a Quintesson pick up none other than Sentinel Prime, who in this movie will be voiced by John Hamm, who is a great match for the character. We then see a Vehiclon-like bot attacking Sunstorm, the Yellow Seeker. We then see Elita 1 pull off some intense fight choreography, which if it is the case for all the fight scenes in the movie, then we may have some of the most artistic and visually engaging battles in Transformers history. Next, we see none other than Arachnid, or Black Arachnia, depending on which version of the character you prefer. Now I hope that Gina Torres reprises her role, which while unlikely, would be nice to see since she absolutely killed it as Arachnid in TFP. We then see Shockwave, Soundwave, and Starscream, all without Decepticon insignia, mind you. What is more important is that Starscream is stepping off a throne. Also, there was a lot of confusion surrounding who would voice Starscream, because in the first test screening, Tom Kenny, none other than the voice actor for SpongeBob and Starscream in Transformers Animated, returned to voice the character. But in the second screening, Steve Buscemi voiced the old Screamer. And the trailer ends by crediting him rather than Tom Kenny. So we could be seeing a first in Transformers history, where nobody is voiced by a previous Transformers voice actor. And I personally do not know what to make of that. Next, we get glimpses of what could actually be the start to the war for Cybertron, which looks absolutely amazing. Then we see Bumblebee discovering his weapons, and of course, they are completely overpowered. Tegan once again does an excellent job as Bumblebee, and I cannot wait to see much more of him in this movie. And then we move to the title card, which is possibly my favorite because it is the furthest departure from the boring grey titles of the other movies. And there you go. There is my analysis for the new Transformers 1 trailer. I tried my best to not include these details that were very obvious, and rather looked for more obscure and hidden Easter eggs. I will also be going deeper into the theories for this movie, because there is just so much that this trailer left unanswered, and so many more questions that it created. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this video, and that it get... Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and that it gave you a deeper insight into Transformers 1. That's all for now. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.